that seems like a big miss, though.
Yeah, it's a big miss.
Like if you were playing darts, that's not really the board.
Well, there's nothing more embarrassing than almost missing a country as well, right? It's that was on the cards. But look, it was I was aiming for Taranaki and I hit 90 Mile Beach, so it was it was a pretty big miss. But
Shaun Quincey and I both grew up on Auckland's North Shore, and I've been in awe of his oars and mindset for quite some time as he dreams big and indeed achieves more. When I went on my own adventure around America, Shaun and his wife kindly opened up their home to me. He took time out of his dream to assist me with mine. And that's the cool thing with kind people who also have ambition and drive. They can't help but be an all-round pillar of human excellence. Shaun has rowed an ocean, he's written a book, gained global working experience, established a multi-million-dollar business, while at the same time being a family man and continuing to make himself available for others. In this recording, we speak about what fills you with gratitude, stepping into big markets and staying laser focused in those markets, the New Zealand way of getting stuff done, and we finished with a few steps for making your dream your reality. Enjoy the awesomeness. Here we go.
Thanks for having me, Cam. It's awesome to be here. It's really cool.
Well, thanks for making the time. And I mean, it's been an exciting last 2 years.
Yes.
What's going on at the moment?
Yeah, well, look, we sold our business in December last year after a really hard, challenging 3 years building it up, and that's been a fantastic result for sort of me and our shareholders, and a really sort of roller coaster journey, pretty similar to, I suppose, rowing the Tasman.
Just firstly, what was the business?
Yeah, so Genoapay was the name of the business, and we basically created this piece of payment software which let people get what they want now and pay for it over 10 weekly instalments. And we scaled that through New Zealand, put it into 2,000 businesses, and we had around about 150,000 people sign up to the platform. And so it was just a journey of scaling a business really, really quickly, and a team, and selling and growing and just, I guess, raising capital and all those sorts of, some people call them fun, some people call them really scary but exciting challenges to eventually sell it was, I guess, the end goal. So that was the journey summarised really rapidly.
Yeah, and that is an incredible journey, and we're going to go into the detail of that.
Cool.
I want to know the dream and where it came from and the challenges and the opportunities within it. But obviously, how you kind of came to attention for New Zealand and myself was rowing across the Tasman from Australia to New Zealand.
Yeah.
How did that come about, man?
Yeah, well, look, in 1977, my dad, Shaun Quincey, decided he'd be the first person to row from New Zealand to Australia. And so that took him 63 days and was a pretty remarkable journey. He built his own boat at a place called Salthouse Boat Building, which was down in Greenhithe, and he had watched I guess some people try and row the Atlantic a few times, and it was kind of in the papers that people were starting to row oceans, and he was looking at living in New Zealand, painting roofs in Ponsonby, and he thought, wow, there's got to be, I guess, a little bit more to life than this, and he felt, after having a little bit of naval experience, that he might have the skills to take on the Tasman, and he just started, I guess, and just like dreams and adventures start, you start building a boat. You just put sort of a hammer to a piece of wood and go, well, gosh, I've got to have a boat, I've got to get started, I've got to put one foot in front of the other and just start working towards achieving the goal of rowing the Tasman.
And how old was he at that point?
Dad was 30, the same age as I am now, actually. Dad was 34 at the time when he started his adventure, and I think he actually, by the time he'd built the boat and got to Australia, he was 36. So, not that it took him 2 years to do the rowing, but all the planning.
All the preparation and from when the dream became.
Yeah, all the different raising money and planning and the prep, and he always said to me, getting the boat to the start line is 90% of the work. The rowing's actually the easy part. It's the planning and the prep that's all the challenging parts.
Absolutely. And so is that where the inspiration came from for you?
I think so. I felt that I don't know, the word destiny is probably a bit dramatic, but for me, it was...
Dramatic is good, man. I love it.
Yeah, I felt a massive urge, sort of, I guess, when I was 17 or 16 or 17, that I would be very disappointed if someone else rode the Tasman from Australia to New Zealand. And
So no one else had done it since your dad.
That's right. And
Okay.
I had the opportunity, I felt, to be the first to row in the other direction. And for me, that was overwhelming. That was, I guess, really just grasped me, and that was what I had to do. And there was nothing going to stop me from doing that. And that was a wonderful moment in my life of just completely clear vision of what I wanted to achieve and what I needed to achieve, and everything else came second after that. So it was great.
But did you kind of wake up one day and it just hit you? You were like, okay, now it's time to get out there?
Sort of. It was a combination of circumstances, I think, which life sometimes does. It just a few things line up where it makes sense to head in a particular path. For me, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I was sort of meandering my way through university and a few jobs without any real direction or passion of what I wanted to do. My stepfather had passed away from cancer, and so I had the opportunity to, I guess, reflect on what's important in life and sort of different things I wanted to do at that time. And so I thought, well, this is it. This is the moment when I have a whole lot of free time. I have no real responsibility. I can throw everything at going on a particular wild adventure. And so that was the decision really there and then. And that was when I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you talk about wild adventures, personally, I can't think of anything more wild. I mean, I fly over that stretch of water quite a bit.
Yeah.
And now whenever I look down, I think, I mean, how big's your boat?
7.3 metres. So
7.3 metres.
It's quite
okay.
a big boat. So
but still, in the varsity of that ocean, it's tiny, right?
Oh, yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, it's a very small drop.
So you have a dream, you've got it in your mind. Obviously, you've got to start taking action. What were the first steps you were doing?
Yeah.
But firstly, were you already rowing? I mean,
yeah, I had a little bit of rowing background. So I was racing surf boats for Moringi Bay Surf Club, and not very good at it, but I certainly enjoyed being in the surf. Certainly enjoyed sort of mucking around and catching waves and things like that. So I had an affinity and I guess level of comfort with the water, which is pretty helpful, I guess, if you're going to live on it for 54 days.
Yeah.
And so how did I start? Was, I guess, it always starts with the vision, and that was, what do I want to do? And that was, I wanted to be the first person to row from Australia to New Zealand solo, and I'd seen myself, I suppose, jumping up down on a beach, sort of achieving that particular goal. So I guess that's where it started for me, and it meant enough for me to start putting that, I guess, steps and a plan into play to achieve that, which I guess is the first step for anyone. It's you've got to make sure that you want to, you know where you want to head to, and that you're willing to do what it takes to get there. And then I guess what did I do? It was
take that personal accountability, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's you need to own it, and you need to, I guess, make the claim that you're going to do it. And there's no shortage of ideas or people saying they're going to achieve different things or going out there. But it's the next step is putting that plan in place, and what's the routine going to be to get you to that particular point? What are you going to have to do? And then it came down to planning, building a really robust execution plan on how we were going to get across the Tasman.
And what did that plan look like?
So for me, the plan was building a team, I guess, team of experts who were going to be able to help me, and then making sure that team was going to make me accountable. And this also sort of plays into how I build a business as well, as you put a board around you that makes you accountable, that helps you with expertise. And the Tasman was exactly the same. I needed a nutritionist, needed a weatherman, needed a fitness coach, needed a boat building expert, all these different things I needed to put in place with key deliverable dates and how that was all going to come together. So, the vision and the excitement all becomes quite boring pretty quickly, really. And I think when you're trying to achieve massive, big things, a lot of it is actually planning and it's preparation and it's hard work getting to the start line.
And getting started, right?
Yeah.
Once you've made that decision. So you get there, you're building a boat.
Yeah.
You've got funding coming in. You haven't even got to the start line yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Had there been big hurdles?
Yeah, I remember my start point. I had a drum kit, a student loan, and I was living upstairs in my brother's garage, paying sort of $80 a week in rent. Had no savings at all. I just had debt, and I was thinking, gosh, I need to raise $200,000 to build this boat, to get everything done, to get myself from Australia to New Zealand, and I couldn't even afford an airfare to get to Australia. So the start point wasn't one of wealth and had a boat built for me or anything like that.
It was almost negative, right?
Yeah, it was totally negative. It was, I was poor. I was young. I had no team around me to sort of help me build the boat, and you had to just start. So it was a big challenge from that point of view, and massive hurdles along the way.
So you have a big crazy dream. You've got a team. You've got to get $200,000+. How, you've got your plan.
Yes.
How did you get people buying into that?
Yeah, well, I think luckily for me, I've always been a salesman, I guess. So that
gift of the gab.
Yeah, I got the gift of the gab, I suppose. So that was helpful. I knew that I needed to monetize the expedition somehow, and fortunately for me, probably on reflection, I'd sold radio advertising for a couple of years. So I understood the how you could put together, I guess, a sales proposal for advertising. And I knew that my boat was, I guess, a piece of multimedia that I was going to be able to sell and monetize. So
because you can put logos.
Yeah. At its simplest form, you can put a sticker on the side of the boat, and hopefully some big newspaper takes a photo, and there's a return on investment for the sponsor. And it was a process of that. And really, I guess it was stubbornness and confidence and belief in the expedition. That the first big step was I went and set up a rowing machine in the foyer of TV3 because they weren't answering my phone calls.
Okay.
And so I said, I'm going to go and sit on a rowing machine until someone talks to me.
I love it.
And so I threatened, I think, I can't actually remember who it was, the name of the exec there. Well, threatened's a bit aggressive, but I said, I'm just going to go sit there, and if it takes 3 days, I'll keep rowing. And then he agreed to meet with me, and then they kindly sponsored the trip with media, which I could go sell, which really got the ball rolling. So that was kind of the first step.
And I love stories like that because people look at sponsorship, or they look at people who've got good jobs and think, maybe it was the gift of the gab, or they got lucky.
Yeah.
But we all know that luck is a reflection of what we see, what we do, and what we create. And so for you to have that motivation, that inspiration to do something quite outside the box in order to get that attention.
Yes, yeah. That's what it's about, There's success doesn't just happen, It doesn't just miraculously appear. It's hard work and it's planning. And a big believer in that, the quote, if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Absolutely.
You've got to put your one foot in front of the other and have courage and go for it. And I guess that was the first step of the Tasman. You had to tell the world that you wanted to be the first person, that I wanted to be the first person to row the Tasman, and claim it and own it and have accountability ultimately for the failure of that campaign if it didn't work out. So that's the scary part about trying.
Yeah. And when you say the first person to row the Tasman,
yes, yeah.
So Dad's obviously already done it.
Yes, yeah.
But is it different when it's going the other way? Or?
Yeah, so I guess I just like to claim to be the first the other way. I guess, yeah. Okay. So he definitely gets first class honours for being the first person to row the Tasman in the world. Absolutely can't argue with that. But I guess I can claim I'm the first the other way.
And you've got the same DNA, right?
Yeah, that's right. Got the same DNA, and I was 9 days faster than him, but that's okay. No one counts.
Yeah. People get faster over time.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
it's like 100 metres isn't what it was back in 1960.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you think of Dad when you were out there rowing the other way?
Yeah, every day.
He must have been there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single day, and he was certainly with me when we were doing that, and it was it was one of those things where I guess as a son you want to be able to achieve what your father did, and everything, and it was quite funny actually. I'd call him when I was on the Tasman, and on the satellite phone sometimes, and we're very different people. And one of the funny things, and he's a bit old school. I was ringing him one day, and he goes, I'd flipped the boat the night before, and I was a bit emotional. I was a bit scared, I was a bit upset, and it was terrifying at that particular time. And I rang him and I said, "Oh, Dad, look, I lost 2 oars last night. I was trapped upside down for half an hour. There's 60 knots of wind. There was 5-metre seas," and he goes, "Shaun, shut up, just shut up." And I was like, okay. And he goes, "Look around you. Have you got some oars?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, Have you got a seat?" And I said, "Yes." And then he goes, "Well, what the fuck are you doing talking to me then?"
Get up and
start rowing. So it was good to have that hard sort of ex-sailor type of commentary.
I guess black and white is how you've got to be sometimes.
That's right.
And straight to the point. And I'm gonna get to that flipping of the boat, because that sounds unreal.
Yes.
Because you've taken off from Coffs Harbour.
Yes.
Why Coffs Harbour? Is it just for?
Yeah. Look, we looked at Coffs Harbour, and so there'd been 13 failed attempts to row the Tasman from Australia to New Zealand. So it wasn't. A lot of people didn't think it was possible. So we had to dig deeper. We had to get into the science of, well, why does this keep happening? What's going on? And when you look at the Tasman, and you look at the heat patterns, so the water temperature, which you can do, which some satellites can do for you, they can show you where the temperature of the currents are moving, and by that you can track where those currents are moving and how to best utilise them.
Okay.
At this particular time, there was a brilliant current called the East Australian current, which was going past Coffs Harbour and pushing out in towards the middle of the Tasman. And so what we did, and you had a weatherman called Roger Badham, who's the Team New Zealand weatherman as well, and Roger looked at that, and I looked at that, and we thought, well, Coffs Harbour has to be the place. So if we can combine 10 days of westerly winds with that current, we're going to get thrown right into the middle, which is the hardest part, is getting off the coast. And it worked. So in the first 10 days, we did about 1,000 kilometres.
Wow.
So it was just, and look, I wasn't rowing half the time. That was the current and the wind, and so that's really what threw us into the middle, which is where everyone else seemed to have got caught out, is that first
getting out.
Yeah, getting off the coast.
Wow.
Yeah.
But like mindset, when you know you've got to row that far, like, is your body aching like early on? Or?
No, first 4 days were really hard. Everything hurt.
Is it anything like you've got in your mind, like?
No, it's worse. It was much worse than I thought. It was it was really
because of things like currents and waves.
Yeah,
and
waves, uncomfortable. Your physical environment is horrible. You've got ulcers and calluses on your hands and on your backside. And you are rowing in those first 10 days for 15 hours a day. So. Fatigue is also really challenging. The loneliness wasn't too worried about, but you're also, I suppose, you're a small boat, big ocean. The fear, there's all sorts. So it's a real full on, I guess, first 10 days until you kind of settle into a rhythm.
And to get into that rhythm, what are you telling yourself?
Well, I remember on day 4 convincing myself I was going to set the boat on fire, set the life raft off, and call in a rescue. And I still felt I could get a good story out of that or something, because it was so challenging, and I was so broken mentally. Okay. And I think that's part of getting through those different psychological hurdles. Was by far the hardest part, and I don't actually know how I did it at all, because it was you felt so debilitated at the time that you wasn't quite sure. It was, and I guess the advice I give to people is it was just about focusing on the next 10 minutes. Yeah. If you try to consume that you've got to row another 3,000 or 4,000 kilometres and you don't know how long it's going to take, it's too overwhelming. And with any big goal or with any big achievement you're trying to do, if you look at all the potential challenges you might have between now and success, you're not going to take it on. You're not going to do it. So you've got to look at the next step. You've got to break it down into the micro goals and keep pushing towards those, so you can celebrate, get some motivation, and get to the end eventually.
Because those potential challenges, they're going to be there no matter what the goal is, right?
That's right.
And you're not always thinking of those when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you go, this is the dream.
That's it.
I guess that's where the passion for it is so important.
Yeah.
You would have had that passion which helped you push through.
Yes, yeah.
And especially when that boat flipped. So you're middle of the night when the boat flipped?
Yeah, it was almost 10 o'clock at night.
So it was dark.
Really dark. can't see anything at all because all I've got is a strobe light on the top of the Tasman Trespasser, which was the name of the boat, and so that was flashing, and so it kind of looks like lightning. It actually makes life a little scary. So you had really big seas, and the boat was sort of surfing down these waves, so there was nothing I could really do. The ocean was too big to have a sea anchor out there. I was too concerned, so I felt I was just going to let the boat run free. So I let the boat run free, and what that meant is the boat was going incredibly fast in a lot of waves, and then it would broach and could turn sideways, roll a little bit, and then straighten up again, then surf down another wave. So I'm inside the cabin during this period of time, just going, this is a little bit gnarly. There's not much I can do about it because I can't get out, because if I get out of the boat I might get thrown into the sea. So I would just hold on and hope for the best. Then I was surfing down the front of a fairly big wave, and it sounds like a 747 taking off, the wind and the wave hitting the side of your small boat. And I did something called pitch poling. So the nose of the boat buried at the bottom of the wave and flipped end over end. So that threw me to the roof of the cabin, and I hit my face, and then everything was just a complete shambles inside the cabin. So all my gear went everywhere. And then I looked out the cabin window, and I was totally underwater. It was like I was in Kelly Tarleton's aquarium. It was I looked out and I could just see water outside. It was totally upside down. So I didn't panic. I just thought, wow, this is what the boat was built for, so we're okay. We just need to relax, just stay calm.
So you're not thinking you're about to die?
No, I didn't have any fear of dying at all. I thought, okay, straight away, how do I get myself out of this? What do I need to do? Am I safe? I knew the boat wasn't going to sink or anything like that. So, so what I did is I had a 50-kilo battery, which was above my head at the moment. So I needed to basically move that around and start moving, using my body weight to try and get the boat as high up as possible to get hit by another wave, hopefully, so it would flip it around again. Okay. So for the next 20 or so minutes, it was about just moving around in the cabin as much as I could, and this is a very small cabin, so and there's positioning my body weight so when the wave did hit it, it would help and assist flip the boat up the right way. So unfortunately, at about 20 minutes, I did that, and the boat had flipped up the right way, and that was just very, very lucky, very lucky.
And I guess a small win.
Yeah, small one.
Big but small. And I imagine for about that whole venture, you've got lots of small wins that you're celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was that was a great thing.
Is there a lot of thinking about where you've come from in order to keep moving forward?
I tend to focus forward a lot, I think, but yeah, where you come from is I guess the challenges you've overcome make the next win when you're going forward a little bit more awesome.
Yeah. I mean, remembering things like you had raised $200,000, you built a boat, you've flipped the boat over, surely all that stuff is going to be fueling your potential.
And it fills you with gratitude, right? Which is probably one of the key kind of concepts to try to reflect upon as you're taking on big challenges is always be grateful, because to make a step in the right direction, things have had to go right for you. And if you focus on all the challenges and the things that haven't gone right, then you become negative, and that doesn't help any scenario at all. And so it's when you look at the good things that have happened to help you get to that particular point. So if I think how grateful I am that boat popped up again, that fills me with good positive feelings, and it makes me feel happy to be alive, happy to be here, happy that I rode the Tasman and was able to build a business. It's sort of all those different things you can be grateful about.
And so you've got through the ocean, and you see New Zealand. I mean, what is it like? Like, are you bang? You head exactly where you wanted to be, or the current route? Or
no, look, I missed where I was aiming for by 750 kilometres, and there's nothing.
750 kilometres. That seems like a big miss.
Yeah, it's a big miss.
Like if you were playing darts, that's not really the board.
Well, there's nothing more embarrassing than almost missing a country as well, right? It's that was on the cards, but look, it was I was aiming for Taranaki and I hit 90 Mile Beach, so it was it was a pretty big miss. But look, we crash landed there, and that was just because of a big southerly storm that came up. So a big southerly storm, so it was, southerly, so blowing from the south, heading north, and I was rowing towards New Zealand the whole time, but I was going 12 miles north for every half mile I was making towards New Zealand. So there was a legitimate risk that I was going to totally miss New Zealand, and there was not much I could do about it. And so the last 4 days of the trip, I rowed all day, every day, and I was in a huge amount of pain because it was just, I was sore, I was fatigued, and I was quite concerned about when I did arrive that the boat might hit rocks or something like that. And the scary part and the most dangerous parts are the actual the coasts and the landing or the launching. So I was going towards 90 Mile Beach, and I'd thought, and I'd built myself up to being able to see New Zealand for sort of 3 or 4 days, rowing in, and that was going to be exciting, and I would have been motivated by that. But I only saw it about 3 hours before I landed.
Really?
Yeah. So that
because we're so small, and it
it was big
up?
seas too.
Okay.
So it was big seas rowing in. So the swell was actually hiding New Zealand, and the part of 90 Mile Beach I landed at was quite flat. So the land's quite flat there, so there was no sort of big mountains or anything to aim for like in New Plymouth. So it was and then basically you're rowing in, and then through my mind the whole time it was, right, what's the action plans, what's the routine? There was very little excitement, which might seem strange, but for me, I was kind of still on mission. I suppose I was still focused on what I had to do when I hit the beach, what I had to do to get the boat safely onto the beach, how I was going to avoid injury on the beach, and all that sort of stuff. So it sounds very boring, but it was, I guess, quite a mechanical process, and I wanted to achieve that safely.
And you nailed it.
Yeah.
I remember the celebration.
Yeah.
And when you got off the boat, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to be a rower for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Or because we know you've got into business.
Yes.
So I'm really keen to know sort of why, how, and what that was.
Yeah, well, I landed and we did the media thing, and then I wrote a book, and that was cool, and we did all that sort of publicity stuff you do when you get a moment of fame in New Zealand, I suppose. So we did everything we could there. And then it was, what's next? There was a void. I'd been doing this campaign for 2.5 years, and there was a small void there, and you fell a little bit of it with speaking and doing other things. But then I guess there was a commercial aspect of me, and I was excited by business. I always liked business. I felt that the Tasman was a good stepping stone to getting into some business and meeting some people that might be able to help me with that process. And so I guess at that particular point as well, it was also the global financial crisis. So there wasn't actually huge opportunities out there. There wasn't many. A lot of people were cutting jobs off and all that sort of stuff. So we actually travelled. So we went to the UK, and my wife and I, and we just travelled around for a year or so. And then somehow coming back to New Zealand, I had a good friend who was leaving a role at a company called Transaction Services, and he said, look, would you be interested in taking a sales role here? And having been in the UK watching all the people lose their jobs and everything, I was filled with a little bit of fear, actually, of arriving back into New Zealand and not being able to get any work. And so I took this job in the payments and technology industry, which was sort of how that pivot from ocean rowing to business kind of happened. So with Transaction Services, they're an incredibly successful company and growing really, really quickly all over the world. And so I was working for them in New Zealand, sort of running sales and business development and product creation and a few different aspects. And then there was an opportunity to lead their expansion into the United States. And for me, that was exciting. That was another Tasman. That was another big adventure. I had a 7-month-old boy at the time as well. So this was a perfect opportunity for me, and I was incredibly excited and grateful for the chance to launch a business into the States. And that really, for me, gave me a huge opportunity to learn how to launch a business. And look, I'd never done it before, so this was just core learning. Every day was something new. Every day was something exciting. And New Zealand, we had to work with banks regularly. New Zealand has 25 banks. The United States has 5,700 plus banks. We have one tax rate. In the States got 11,000 tax rates. So the complexity and the size is overwhelming. And California, for an example, 6th biggest economy in the world. New Zealand's
just one state.
One state, right? One state. And where we lived, San Francisco, 11 million people in the Bay Area, right? Yeah. So big markets, hugely exciting.
And is there a challenge or is there an opportunity when you're a New Zealander going into a place like the US?
Yeah, look, New Zealand, New Zealanders, we're really good at doing lots and lots of things. We're entrepreneurial, we are ambitious, we're courageous, we're creative, we see problems and we fix problems with usually the least amount of resource we can. We make do with what we've got, and and maybe that's because we're at the bottom of the world and we've always had to. So that is a massive attribute we've got. Getting stuff done. We push through barriers and get there. So as a New Zealander arriving in the States, that actually sometimes disadvantages us in some ways because in such a big market, there is so much specialisation.
Yeah.
New Zealand will do everything for everyone. So we'll be yes men to everyone, basically. We'll sit in an elevator with someone, they'll say, can you do this for my company? And the response is always, absolutely, we'll do that. Going into the States, that can lead to disaster because you need to be so focused because there is such a big area. And that is, as an example, I suppose for TSG, which is who I was working for, we would provide recurring payment systems for gyms and for insurance companies and for healthcare and for childcare and for all these different things. And we took that attitude to the States that we would try and do that. Now that was ultimately failed in the beginning as a strategy because we were too widespread. Too big. So you go to the States and you go, right, I'm going to sell into the Bay Area only, and I'm going to sell into gyms with only 200 members maximum, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to go anywhere else in the States. And so staying that laser focus was certainly what ended up being a much better play to start cutting your teeth and moving forward into what is a big market.
And you were over there, working for the man as such. You were being entrepreneurial, but it was someone else's kind of business. Is that what inspired you to set up your own and come home?
Absolutely, yeah. I saw that I could do it. I felt I had learned a number of lessons that were going to enable me to launch my own business. I had seen where to make mistakes, and we'd made those mistakes, and I'd seen what had actually worked as well. And I also saw, I guess, a gap in the market where we needed to sort of go with a particular solution or what we needed to do. And so the timing for me was perfect, really. I got that business established into the States, and now I felt, well, now's the time. And again, like the Tasman, it's a combination of circumstances that kind of came together at that particular moment. And I thought, well, let's do it. The kids are young. We've made a little bit of money in the States to use as, I guess, foundation capital. The property market has gone well in New Zealand, so we had a fat enough floating mortgage that we could, chew our way through that over the next couple of years. And the mortgage would be going up, but we felt that it was a good time and that it was the fastest way to creating wealth.
What is the business?
Yeah, so Genoapay, the vision was to create the world's most affordable way to pay. And so what we saw in the gap is there was 65% of New Zealanders received less than $500 a week into their pocket every week. And we thought, wow, that's going to make getting the things you need hard sometimes. And the only choice that they had was high interest credit. So we created this product called Genoapay, which let people get what they need now, pay for it over 10 weekly instalments, and it didn't cost them anything at all. There was no interest, there was no fees, and so we charged the businesses who were providing services the fee to cover the cost of the funds. So dentists, vets, hair and beauty salons, mechanics would have this software platform. So someone would go in, they'd get a $500 bill, and the mechanic that could then say, hey, look, we know you probably can't afford this all at once, so pay me $50 a week over the next 10 weeks, and we would manage that all for them. And then that's what ultimately scaled into the 2,000 different services businesses and into the hands of 100,000 plus New Zealanders. So that was kind of a really exciting ride.
And we talk about money, but it scaled to what, $10 million within 6 months?
Yep. Yeah, so we had it.
Is that fast growth?
Yeah, it's very fast growth. Look, there's always faster growth. There's always companies that are bigger and stronger and everything, and that exceeded my expectations of how quickly that was going to grow. And the consumer appetite for the product exceeded my expectations, and also the appetite for the merchants to help their customers pay for things over time by taking on a fee. Also, it gave me a bit of faith back in humanity, I guess, as well. Right, they wanted to help, so that was good. So that was incredibly exciting. But again, it started off with. I was sitting in the Browns Bay Library actually when I first started this business by myself, drawing plans on on my computer, which was a second-hand computer, and then getting a book from the library to help me do that. And I was at the library because I could get free Wi-Fi and get away from. I had a newborn and a 2-year-old then, so it was not that I want to get away from them, but find some quiet space. Yeah, so it all starts somewhere, and then.
And what kind of time frame is that from being in the library to, was it last year you got acquired?
Yeah, that's right. So December the 6th last year, we were acquired by a company called Latitude Financial Services, and so that time frame, it was 3 years.
From being in the library in Browns Bay to being acquired by Latitude, which is a global company.
Yes, yeah.
A lifestyle change with that. I mean, has it gone from the library to speedboats and private jets?
Yeah, private jets. No, I wish done it. Hey, look, we did very well out of it. We made some good money out of it. It's put us in a great financial position, and that's what I'm proud of, and it's also put a whole of our shareholders in a great financial position as well. So,
that's awesome,
the creation of wealth is something that should be celebrated and people should be proud of, and I certainly am proud of that part. So, yeah, it was a good result.
So what's next?
So as part of the deal,
back to rowing.
Yeah, I wish it might be easier than building a startup. Look, I think I'm working with the company to. I'm continuing to lead that company for the next few years, and potentially longer as well. We've got incredibly exciting growth plans to take it offshore and move into new markets and a few things, which is what I love doing. And so I'll certainly be doing that. And then who knows? It's harder to get a leave pass these days, but growing the company and spending time with the family keeps me pretty occupied at the moment.
And the way I see it of you, Shaun, is you're just a opportunity-centric guy, so who sort of what life you want to live, and I guess opportunities will come.
Yep.
You'll choose whether to embrace those or not,
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. That's what we do. We choose our lives and we build a routine to win, and that's kind of what it's about, and that's that's how we're awesome, I guess.
Cool. I love how you used awesome. And just to finish up, I've just got a few quick fire questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Daily motivation, what is it? What does it look like?
Daily motivation for me sort of stems from routine. So if you're healthy, if you're doing exercise, and if I guess for me, spending time with family keeps me balanced and gives me purpose. And it's about keeping that routine in check, and that's sort of what keeps me motivated and keeps me full of energy. So I think it's a combination of those things which allow motivation to keep coming and keep being generated by yourself.
So despite how busy you're getting, you always try and get to a gym, do some swimming, or whatever it may be. Absolutely.
You got to fight for that routine, because if you lose that, that's when you start losing control. And so that's what's really important to me is the religious sticking to that routine. Yeah. And even if you're exhausted, just get up, go to the gym, just do something, have your cereal or your toast or whatever it is, see your family, get on with work, and if you can stick to that, then you've got control.
What does the Tasman mean to you now?
I guess it's a really special part of history for me and my dad. My father passed away last year, so that was, I guess it's going to get more and more special to me over time. It's something I feel I achieved, and a real special thing. Dad was the first one way, I was first the other way. So for me, that's always going to be a really special legacy, I guess. Yeah.
Finally, someone's at home, whatever age, whatever state, they've got a dream. It's just coming to their mind. Could be rowing, could be setting up a business, could be whatever. What we've spoken about personal accountability.
Yeah.
What are your kind of top tips for someone to take it from being a dream to being on a bit of paper to being a reality?
Yeah. Cool. Step one, I think, is don't just think you can. Set an expectation on yourself. It's going to happen. It's not just an idea. It is going to happen. And then you need to start a plan. And that plan is really how are you going to make sure, and everyone's got different ideas and challenges, how are you going to make sure that pursuing this idea or concept is sustainable? So the support network has to come first, and that might be the team, that might be money, it might be whatever it is, but you're going to need to make sure that you have the support behind you and around you, and that might be financially, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, and it's your responsibility to build that support network to enable you to achieve that particular vision or goal, whatever it is, and that has to be step one. Step two is you build the plan, make the plan happen. If it's going to involve you coming home from work an hour early and then working till 11, 10, whatever it is at night, every night for the next 10 weeks, well, figure out how that support network is going to enable you to do that. And then just do it. Just get out there and start. Just start writing plans down. Start telling the world about what you're doing. Start making positive steps in the right direction.
I love it. Just don't and don't be too afraid of a little voice that's going to come into your head.
Yeah.
That's going to challenge that perception.
That's exactly right. Just have confidence, keep pushing forward, and believe in yourself. And can be, you hear it, everyone tells you that from when you're 1 year old, believe in yourself, have confidence, but it's so true and it's pure. You just got to believe and have the confidence every day to keep trying.
Shaun Quincey, you're an incredible New Zealander, an incredible human. You're full of awesomeness. I want to leave the last word with you, but just a final quote, a final bit of inspiration to our listeners out there.
I find one quote I always quite like is, the greatest generals in the world, I guess, didn't get to pick where they were going to have their fights. They didn't get to pick the landscape they were going to be their greatest challenges or their greatest battles. But what they did get to pick is they got to pick how they fought, and they got to pick the strategy of how they were going to fight. And so for me, that's life. We don't always get to pick how the lemons that are going to get thrown at us. We don't get to pick sort of how the speed bumps in front of us are going to be taken on or anything like that, but we get to pick how we are going to fight, and we get to pick the strategy, and we get to pick that every single day when we wake up. So that for me is what it's all about.
Shaun, you dream big, you achieve more, you show everyone what it takes to be as awesome as you can be. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Cam. Yeah, you too. Cheers.
Cool.
Thanks for having me. Cool.
Thanks so much to Shaun Quincey for taking the time to come out of his day, to come out of his dreams, to share his awesomeness with us. And I'm left believing that we really can achieve anything in this world, but yes, sometimes we need to take a risk. We need to do what's different. We need to celebrate what makes us us. And we need to reflect on the challenges that we've overcome, because challenges are going to continue to come into our life. But if we see that we've overcome them once before, we know we can overcome them again. We need to reflect on the awesome moments that we've had in our life, no matter what age we were when we achieved those. If we expect excellence, then we can continue to achieve it. When I was looking to create this podcast, I looked at some fantastic studios for recording content, but what really stood out was the NBR, the National Business Review, and I went and I spoke with them and I told them what I was seeking to achieve, and they created the space for rather, sorry, I'm struggling with my words, rather, they created this space for me to be able to record the content that goes into what you've just heard today. That's awesome. So what would life be like if you ignored the voice that got in the way of your dreams and your ambitions, and you just went out, you embraced what makes you dreamed big, you achieved more, and made every day awesome?